Did I change it?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Legal Lunch and Learn, which is a weekly live show where we ask an expert your questions on a legal topic. Thank you for your patience. It is the end of the school year, so we're just catching up a little bit. My name is Jenny Nance. I'm a staff attorney here at Maryland Legal Aid in our Lawyer in the Schools program. We partner with several Baltimore City public schools around the city to hold legal clinics and provide advice and assistance to city schools, families, and community members. And we do this by connecting them with pro bono attorneys who volunteer their time to answer questions and help with paperwork. I'm really happy to have one of those volunteers with us today. I'm going to introduce him in just a moment, but I have a few quick notes first. Our production engineer is Alec Chase. Alec, thank you so much for your help today. If you have specific legal questions, please, you can email us at lawyer@mdlab.org. That will be in the comments, or you can call us at 443-451-2805. If you need captions, you can visit this video on YouTube. And finally, this doesn't create any attorney-client relationship. This is just general information. If you do need specific legal advice, please do reach out to us directly. So with all that out of the way, I'm really excited to introduce our topic and our special guests. Our topic is going to be the basics of custody, including third-party custody. And we're very lucky to have two experts today. So we have Nicholas McDaniels and Jada Brown. I'm going to introduce Nick and he's going to introduce Jada. But in the meantime, if you know you have a question or comment about our topic, please go ahead, put it in the comments or DM us. And again, if you have an immediate legal issue, please contact us directly. So our expert in custody, Nicholas McDaniels, he's a managing partner at Lewis McDaniels. His clients in Frederick and across Maryland. He has extensive experience in family law, as well as a lot of other areas of law, estate planning, personal injury, real estate, all kinds of other civil litigation areas. And he's also the director of the Law and Leadership Program at Mergenthaler Vocational Technical High School, AKA MERVO. He's going to talk a little bit more about that wonderful program in a moment. But he's also a passionate and dedicated volunteer attorney. He's helped countless clients who couldn't afford legal help on their own. He's made the legal clinics that we hold at MERVO possible, and he's also attended all of them. And most recently, he was named a 2021 Generation JD honoree by the Daily Record, which recognizes up-and-coming Maryland lawyers for outstanding dedication to their profession and their communities. So he very much deserves that award, and I'm going to turn it over to Nick now to introduce our other special guest.
Thank you so much, Jenny. I really appreciate it. And I do appreciate the reference to the Up and Coming award. I honestly hope I'm still receiving that award into my 70s, and not really plateauing anywhere. So more important than me, though, I have one of my amazing, we'll say rising seniors now, right? Is a junior about to become a senior in the next couple of weeks. Miss Jada Brown, she is an amazing student here in the Law and Leadership program, just incredibly inquisitive and intelligent, and really has a passion for learning the law. And I think what's probably striking about her versus perhaps some other folks her age, she likes family law. she has kind of a passion for helping people, and that's why I'm really excited to have her here today with us, because she's going to help facilitate our discussion about different aspects of custody and visitation. Jada, was there anything you wanted to maybe add to that?
Yeah, I definitely am very passionate about family law. I definitely look forward to like helping others with like different type of questions they have and so on. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for joining us. Do you want me to put up the slides now?
Yeah, Jenny, if you could, and if you don't mind running the slides, that would be fantastic. And then we'll work our way through those there. The way we're going to kind of structure this is Jada is going to kind of pose some questions, and if I have the pleasure of teaching Jada in class, as you know, no matter what I say, she has questions related to it. So, I mean, there was almost no prep time needed for this whatsoever, because I know she'll always ask the best questions and force me to really explain myself, which is awesome. Cool. So we're live here, right? And so the thing that we're talking about here to begin with is the basics of custody and visitation. And this is my phone rings off the hook every day about people that have different issues, because these are the most basic issues related to our life, and those that are probably most pressing. There's a lot of issues we encounter in our life that we're just willing to let go. But when they deal with our family, our kids, it's one of those things where we want to attend to those pretty urgently, and we will seek out the help of an attorney. The one thing that I deal with a lot is the fact that custody varies from state to state, the way that the systems work. There's no real national system for how that works. So if you are in Pennsylvania or DC or Virginia or Delaware, your issues may be a little bit different. The one thing that I always like to say before we get started with everything, that in the state of Maryland, there is one single principle that our courts operate by, right? And there are cases related to this and laws related to this, and that is that the best interests of the child is all that matters. There's nothing at all that the court can look at above the best interests of the child. Now, the question is, well, what does that actually mean? And that's what we're going to, at least in part, try to answer today. The other thing that I always like to say before we get started, the natural parents of the child, that is the birth father and birth mother, have legal rights related to custody and visitation. And for any rights related to custody and visitation of a child to be established, there must be some sort of intervention of a court or some sort of official order that says that somebody other than the birth father or birth mother has some sort of parental rights.
And also, I would like to add, when giving like equal distribution to the child and the parents, the court always makes sure that they give everything out equally and whatever is best for the child.
That's an excellent reminder, right? That this is, I'm talking in these kind of overall principles, and what Jada brought us back to is, this is, I think, and why I enjoy practicing this area of law, the most human area of law. And it's like, I don't want to hear about what the courts say or what the law says. I want to hear about how this affects my life, right? And Jada just brought us back to that. So now we'll get into this kind of back and forth between Jada and I related to the custody situation.
Okay, so legal custody. Who makes the decisions for the child? School, doctor, child care, shared or sole or tiebreaker. Physical custody. Where does the child spend most of the time?
Perfect. So there are two types of custody that we deal with, and the court has to make an order about if we are actually determining custody, right? The one is legal custody, and that is, quite frankly, who is the one that is in charge of all of the legal affairs of the child or children, right? Where do they receive their medical treatment? Where do they go to school? Where are their government documents? What other potential government programs are available to them? The parent with legal custody has the right to be able to make all of those decisions, okay? That could be shared, however, which means the parents have to conduct that type of action related to the child together. But it could also have what we often see is what's called a tiebreaker, where it's, okay, the parents have shared legal custody. They both get to make the decisions. Where's the kid going to school? Where's the kid going to the doctor? But if they reach a disagreement, one parent or the other has a tiebreaker rather than having to go to the courts and have them decide. Now, as Jada said, there's that other type of custody, right? There's the physical custody, and that is, where is the child most of the time? It's quite simple. And honestly, in Maryland, we look at it in terms of overnights, okay? Where is the child at nighttime? Do they spend 5 days a week at dad's house? Do they spend 5 days a week at mom's house? Do they spend 200 nights a year at mom's house? All of those things matter in determining physical custody. And those laws in Maryland, interestingly, have just changed. So as long as you have more than 92 overnights in the state of Maryland, now you are in this area of where you have shared or joint physical custody, okay? If you have less than that, then it's sole physical custody to the parent that has the child for more overnights. So we can go to the next one.
Okay, so birth, paternity, de facto arrangement, no court involvement, divorce custody / access agreement, unmarried custody / access agreement.
Awesome. Thank you, Jada. So we'll take these one by one, right? So what is custody, right? And who has custody? Well, if at the point of birth, it's pretty easy, I would say 99% of the time, to tell who the mother is, okay? At the point of birth, it may be a little less easy to determine who the father is, okay? So, but like we said at the beginning, natural parents have rights to parenthood, rights to custody, rights to access. And so if we are thinking about the issue of birth, well, we know the mother's going to have those rights, because I have not yet come across a case where we are not clear who the mother of the child is, right? But coming to who the father of the child is, well, something like a paternity test could be arranged, or would have to be proven to prove who the father of that child is, and whoever the natural father is, that person has particular rights. Then we talk about, let's fast forward beyond that and say, okay, what if two parents are unmarried, but they have some sort of, say, hey, mom has baby, dad decides dad wants visitation at certain times. They kind of work it out over the course of a couple of years. It goes back and forth. There's no real written agreement. There's no court involvement. That's what we call a de facto arrangement, or it means it's just kind of that's what people have arranged kind of on their own. The court hasn't been involved. There's no order in place. The courts will look at kind of what that looked like. But if you end up in court over trying to decide who has custody and visitation, the court is kind of looking at a blank slate. That is not to say that they will not look at what's been done in the past, but you have no written agreement at that point, okay? Then we switch to our last two categories, which are kind of two sides of the same coin. We have divorce versus unmarried, okay? And if the parties have never been married, which happens all the time, the parties may want to enter into some sort of a custody and access agreement. Okay, little Jimmy's going to be with dad on this many days, and mom this many days, and on these holidays, and Mother's Day mom gets them, and Father's Day dad gets them, and all sorts of things like that, so that they have a worked out agreement that is registered with the courts. That way, if one of the parties decides, hey, I don't want to follow this anymore, or they decide, hey, I'm not dropping the kid off, you can go to court and have that agreement enforced. The same thing has to happen at divorce. If the parties are married, the court will not grant parties divorce unless we have resolved these issues of custody and visitation. Where's the kid going to be? Who's going to pay for the kid? Who's going to have the kid at different holidays? The court will say you are not allowed to separate until we have first dealt with the issues of custody, and that is something that certainly I think is important, to be able to go through that process, with an attorney or with the help of different self-help centers or the clerks. But I think it's equally as important if you're an unmarried couple to have some sort of enforceable agreement. I cannot tell you the amount of times I've got people that are calling that don't have an agreement with their spouse, but they're supposed to have their child on a Saturday, and then the child doesn't show up. And what do you do? Right? And then you end up kind of starting from the beginning. So getting to that phase, if you have problems or anticipate problems or just need some structure, I think is probably very important. Jada, was there anything to add to that I missed?
I also wanted to add, also, if the child is of age, it's like where they would want to go as far as like getting custody of the child can always choose which parent they would like to go to.
No, that's a great point. And you said the phrase of age. And I'm putting you on the spot here. What do you think that means, of age? And to be clear, there's no real correct answer.
So like, of course, like not a baby, because a baby wouldn't know what's best for them. But like a teenager, someone who's like able to talk, or like more so a teenager, like they can choose who they want to be with. So if they're like 13 and up, they would know who they would want to be with and what's the best for them.
Honestly, that number, 13, you're on your way to being a good circuit court judge in the family division, I think, because that seems to be kind of the cutoff age that the judges use. So Jada, you nailed that one. I mean, it is honestly, it depends on the child. It depends on their opinions. It depends on how mature they are. It depends on all sorts of other things. But certainly, right? Remember, the best interests of the child is what matters. And to the extent that a child can offer their own best interests, or what they think their interest is, the court will consider that. All right, we can go to the next one.
Okay, so the factors of custody and visitation.
And Jada, you don't have to read all of these, Hans, unless you really want to. I'd be happy. And if Jenny, if you think this is helpful for everybody as well, it'd be, great if we want to go through what it's called the Taylor v. Taylor and the Montgomery County v. Sanders factors. And Jada, if you could, honestly, if you're willing to, I'd love for you to read kind of all of those, and then I'll talk about the Taylor ones, and then we can go back and read the Sanders ones, and I'll talk about those, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine. So for Taylor versus Taylor factors, capacity of the parents to communicate and to reach, I'm sorry, I cannot really see that. Okay, sorry, I'm gonna read it again. The capacity of the parents to communicate and to reach shared decisions affecting the child's welfare, willingness of the parents to share custody, fitness of the parents, relationship established between the child and each parent, references of the child, potential disruption of the child's social and school life, geographic proximity of the parental homes, demands of parental employment, age and the number of the children, sincerity of the parents' requests, financial status of the parents, impact on state or federal assistance, benefit to parents, and any other factors.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And so number 5 was the one that Jada just brought up for us, right? The preferences of the child. These are in no particular orders, but in family law, and any good family law attorney will tell you there's only about 6 cases that really matter unless you have some very, very special issue. One of them is this Taylor v. Taylor case, which really lays out what the best interests of the child are. It's not exhaustive though, right? You see number 14, other factors, which means the judge can consider whatever he or she wants to consider related to the best interest of the child. But these are the things that the courts are looking for. So if you are trying to get full custody or visitation access, these are the things that the courts are going to consider, right? One, can the parents cooperate with each other? That makes a big difference, because the court then knows if they can't cooperate, the court has to have kind of a stronger grip on what the custody decision is, right? Do the parents want shared custody? If they don't, the court won't grant it. They kind of have to want it in order for that to happen, okay? Fitness as a parent. Is one of these people the kind of people you wouldn't leave your child with? If so, the court's going to say, wow, we need to really restrict this person's access even to their own child, okay? Past relationships, where do the parents live? How many kids are there? Is mom the best parent for the child, but she works 70 hours a week? That's a big deal too, because even if she's the best parent for the child, but she's working 70 hours a week, well, she's not going to be the one actually raising the children, okay? And then of course, okay, what's their financial issues? And then ultimately, number 10 is the one that I love the best. That is the sincerity of the parent's request. Okay, the judge has to, everybody wants to go to court and talk about how much they love. I mean, you never see somebody in court talking about, hey, I really don't want my kid, or hey, I really prefer not to see my kid, or hey, I go ahead and let the father have a child, right? The judge has to kind of determine, is this person really honest or not? Jada, can you take us through the Sanders factors too?
Yes, so the Sanders factors are the fitnesses of the parents as well, just as the Taylor versus Taylor. Character and reputation of the parties, desire of the natural parents, and agreement between the parties, potential of maintaining natural family relations, preference of the child, material opportunities affecting the future life of the child, age and sex of the child, residence of parents and opportunity for visitation, length of separation from natural parents, prior voluntary abandonment or surrender of the child or a child.
And so you see some pretty significant overlap there between the Taylor factors and the Sanders factors. But again, I draw you, after looking through what Jada just told you all, I draw you back to a factor 14 of the Taylor factors, which is other factors. In other words, the court can consider whatever evidence you can put in front of them about what is in the best interest of the child. But a good judge and a good court will really go through the process of discussing, okay, I looked at Taylor factor 1. This is what I determined. I looked at Taylor 2. This is what I determined, and so on and so forth through all of these. And sometimes that opinion or that recommendation from the judge, it'll take an hour to sit there and listen to. As a really good judge will go through all of those things to help the parties understand how that judge came to that decision.
And I would like to add, like, with the fitness of the parents, if they are coming to a court and they just see how the parents present themselves, or like you can tell when someone is under the influence of any type of drugs. So like Ms. McDaniels said about like any good judge, he would see that and would know which parent to give the child to. Because sometimes some children, you know, they would try to like probably be like nervous, or like didn't want to hurt like one of the other parents' feelings. But, and like, you can tell like the child probably isn't really comfortable with that parent, but just from knowing the fitness of them and how they are presented, the judge would know.
It's an amazing point, right? And it is rare for a judge to say that a parent is totally unfit to be a parent, but a judge has to determine which parent is more fit. And what Jada is saying is your presentation in court plays a big part in that, because if you are going to court and having a judge decide the custody and visitation of your child, you are essentially saying, you know what, I would like a stranger who wears a black robe, who I got to know for 3 hours, to say where my child goes. And if that's the case, like Jada was telling you, your presentation during that 3-hour period really makes a huge impact, because the judge doesn't have anything else to go on in relation to you other than what papers you have filed or your lawyer has filed. But let's face it, everybody looks somewhat the same on paper. The next slide loading up for me. There we go. I got it. Jada, this is the part that you love the most.
Yes. Okay. So custody and visitation, the money. Child support. Maryland child support guidelines. Child support can be paid directly or through local child support office.
And I say that because Jada's all about her bag. That's just what she does, right? This is what matters. I get this question all the time. Well, can we negotiate child support? Can we say this? Can we say that? And the answer in like 5% of the time is yes. The answer 95% of the time is no. Child support is what child support is, okay? The state of Maryland has in the law what child support is supposed to be. It's literally like a calculator. It's a formula. In fact, the Maryland government has a child support calculator online that you can get a roughly decent estimate of what your child support is supposed to be. And it takes in your income and your expenses and everything related to the child and says what the child support is. It's a calculator. You put the numbers in and it spits a number out. And whatever that number is, it would take a lot of convincing to get a judge to do something different from what that number is. So if your motive or something related to your child custody case, and I'm not saying that it shouldn't be, but if one of your motives related to that has to do with child support, you need to understand that from the beginning and know that there is not a lot to negotiate related to that. I will say, however, the biggest thing impacting how much child support somebody has to pay is who has custody of the child. Does parent A have full custody? And this is physical custody. Physical custody is what's related to child support. Does parent A have full physical custody? Does parent B have full physical custody? Or is there shared custody? And all of those things will make a major difference in terms of how child support is collected and paid. The other thing is, child support sometimes is paid directly from parent A to parent B on a certain date every month or multiple certain dates every month. It could also be collected through the local child support office. Oftentimes we'll see cases that will start as child support only cases and then will turn into custody cases. And usually if there's already kind of a child support case by itself that's been started, then that custody case will continue with whatever method is being used.
Okay, so custody and visitation facts. How do I get started? Grandparental, third-party custody and visitation, changes and circumstances.
Awesome. So in terms of getting started, there's lots of ways you can do it, right? You go to the courthouse, you talk to the clerks in the family division of every circuit court in Maryland I've practiced in are the best clerks in the world. And I hesitate to say that with all due respect to the other clerks, but the clerks in the family divisions are incredible. They are incredibly helpful. They will provide as much guidance as they are legally allowed to do. You have great organizations if you can't necessarily afford an attorney, or great programs if you can't afford an attorney, particularly through the Maryland Legal Aid Bureau. If you need just to sit and talk with someone, if you need full representation, the attorneys at Maryland Legal Aid and the pro bono attorneys that work with them can provide those resources. And if you have the means to hire an attorney, I certainly recommend hiring one. I mean, recommend hiring somebody that practices family law regularly. That is something that can impact your case in ways that you may not even completely understand. And that comes with familiarity with the courts and relationships with judges and relationships with other attorneys, okay? Second thing is grandparental and third-party custody. I get these phone calls probably more than I get any other phone calls, okay? And in Maryland, the fact is there really isn't great path forward for anybody other than the natural parents to get custody and visitation. That's not absolute, but I hear stories from grandmothers mostly all the time that haven't got to see their grandbabies in years after spending lots of time with them during their younger years. And that's because of some sort of division within the family or within the parents that's caused that grandmother to lose access. I'm letting you know now it is an uphill battle, but it is possibly something that can be done, particularly if you as a grandparent have played a really instrumental role in raising that child or helping to raise that child, where the court then determines, as it almost always does, right, what's in the best interest of the child. And the court is very unlikely to say, yeah, grandma raised this kid until they were 5, but it's not in the kid's best interest to continue a relationship with grandma. That's not in line with what we understand even logically to be the best interest of the child. The last little thing that Jada mentioned is about changes in circumstances. The big thing is, this is the most human area of law there is. Things change, okay? You are in you're in a marriage, now you're in a divorce, then you're in a remarriage, then you're in another divorce, then you're in another remarriage. And all throughout this process, the kids are kind of going through this, and what is in the best interest of the child, what is in your economic situation, what is in your living and geographical situation. I mean, to go through kind of all of those Taylor v. Taylor factors is going to change over time. And therefore, you may need to go back to court, even if you've already kind of quote unquote figured this stuff out once, and figure it out again. And that's through kind of what we call the modification process.
Yeah, and also like to backtrack on like how to get started and changes in the circumstances. You can also do this if you was filing for divorce too. So you would have to sign up for a file, and you could ask for physical custody of the child and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. And it's a really good point, right? I kind of often gloss over that part, but so many times custody is kind of related to, or what we call incident to divorce, right? That it's a decision that has to be made when parties are separating. So Jada makes a great point.
And now, is there any questions that anyone would like to ask? And if you have any several questions that you would like to ask Mr. McDaniels himself, you can call his number, his email, and yeah.
I had a question about who counts as a third party. When we talk about third party custody, say, you have two people who've been raising a child for some time, or maybe there's a step parent involved who has been acting as that child's parent, but isn't a biological parent. When do they count as a third party, and when do they count as, are there any situations in which a non-biological parent might be considered that child's actual parent?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. The answer is yes. I mean, I'm currently dealing with a case right now where an aunt has been raising the child honestly at the wishes of the parents for years. What becomes the biggest hurdle is the natural parents and their wishes, right? So if the natural parents do not want that third party person to get visitation or to get custody, that's a problem, right? The courts are 9 times out of 10 more likely to side with custody and visitation in favor of a family member, even if it's not a natural parent, as long as the natural parent doesn't object, or even in some cases, the natural parent says, I can't care for my child right now, right? I would prefer my sister to become kind of the guardian and therefore have custody of the child, or certain levels of visitation. So the answer to your question is there aren't limits. The best interest of the child is what matters most. And then what matters next is kind of the wishes and rights of the natural parents. And if the natural parents do not want some third party person, even if that is, the father's mother or father's father or something like that, then the court has to take very, very, very serious consideration as to what those parents' wishes are.
Also, I would like to add, so usually like third parties usually come into existence when like both parents are dead. So like foster kids, like if they have any other family members that they don't know about, they usually will go to a secondary family member as an aunt, uncle, grandma.
I mean, that's a great point, and is much more frequent when we're dealing with these kinds of issues, is where at least one of the parents is deceased or can't be found for whatever reason, has moved away to a different part of the country, maybe incarcerated for a long period of time, and then as a result of that, kind of the other parent becomes really the only natural parent that is available for custody, and as such, that becomes pretty complicated to raise a child where there's only really one natural parent, and the courts are willing to at least consider the idea that, hey, a third party having some sort of visitation, if not custody, could really be helpful for the child.
Great, thank you so much for that presentation. I think that was really thorough. Do either of you have anything that you want to add that you wish had come up? Jada, do you have anything that you think Mr. McDaniels didn't hit on that you want to make sure that gets out there for people?
No, I think I really think we've hit the nose with everything. I don't really have anything else to add.
Let's stop the screen share. All right, perfect.
I would certainly like to add that if you're looking for a family law attorney 10 years from now, you should hire Jada Brown, not me, because she is going to be absolutely incredible if you need a good advocate on your side.
Oh, I have one more question that came in. So at what point would a custody situation turn into really going more in the direction of adoption? Like when you have a third party involved, or as Jada was talking about, maybe you have a parent who is deceased or not in the picture in some capacity. At what point do you start looking at adoption as opposed to custody, or is it really just stay custody? When would you want to consider adoption?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a really good point. I think most of the times that I deal with those issues, it's much more of just a personal preference in the relationship between the adoptive parent or proposed adoptive parent and the child, right? Did they want a long-term parental relationship beyond when the child turns 18, right? And more often than not, we deal with what's called guardianship, right? Or which is honestly just custody, where a non-natural parent ends up kind of getting custody of a minor child. Where you would want adoption is, listen, this child that I've got guardianship over or want custody over, I really want them to be my child, and not just till they turn 18. I want them to be my child forever. And when I pass away, I want them to have all the benefits that would mean related to being my child, as in being able to inherit under my will, being able to receive life insurance policies that are left for my child, or whatever kind of benefits that a child would potentially get from a parent. If you've adopted that child or made that adoption official, that's going to distinguish that from kind of the guardianship and custody issue. And so honestly, when I'm dealing with that, it's mostly just a preference. Are you just caring for the child till they're a grown person? Are you caring for this child for the rest of their lives and hoping they care for you when you need somebody to care for you when you're good and old?
Great, that's really helpful. Okay, so unless any other questions come in, I think that we're at the end of our show. Nick, Jada, thank you so much for participating. That was really, really helpful. And, Jada, if you want to come back, and join us throughout your law school, your lawyer career, going through college, just update us on everything you have learned. You'll be welcome to come back anytime. And in 2 weeks, we'll resume. Charlie will resume hosting. He'll be back and won't have to put up with me anymore. And he'll be talking to Maryland Legal Aid's child support expert, Stacey Binsky, to answer your questions about issues that can arise when back child support is owed. So if you're going to have a question about that, please leave us a comment down below or email us. Remember to share this video if you found it helpful, and join us again in 2 weeks.